All right. Well, hello, Rue. Welcome to the Jason Eldridge Photo Show. How are you tonight?
I'm doing great, Jason. How are you doing this evening?
We're doing just fine here. It's a long day for us. We've been up for a while. Our kid, he's 17. He's taking the SAT and all that kind of stuff. So it was a lot of fun for him today. But first, I want to say thank you for coming on the show. And you're the third astrophotographer that I've had on a row. So I'm thinking that there might be some shifts in what I'm interested in.
Yeah, the bug usually bites you that way. And once it gets you, I warn you, it does not let go.
Well, I've been a terrestrial photographer for a very long time, but I've always been interested in astrophotography. And I just recently, back in March, I started getting into it. And the first thing that I do whenever I have a new interest is I go and I look and see what podcasts are out there.
Mm-hmm.
And I was pretty surprised to find pretty much one.
Yep.
And as soon as I found it, I started emailing you right away, and you're very busy. So it's been a struggle getting us both together at the same time, but I'm very glad to say that we are here.
I'm super happy to be here. And I know this has been a long time coming, and we have been talking back and forth, and you just happened to message me last week and say, I think we both forgot about this. And man, you nailed it. I had completely forgotten about it because I got caught up with a million different things, but it's funny that you mentioned that about the show, because what you did is exactly what I did 2 years ago. I wanted to hear a show about astrophotography because I was so deep into it at that point. And I love listening to podcasts about things that I'm interested in, maybe stuff that I don't even do necessarily. But when I went and searched, I didn't see anything. And, I've always been kind of I've always been a tech guy, and I've always dabbled in audio. We made music when I was younger, like in my teenage years. So I had a little bit of equipment lying around. I had a microphone. I said, you know what? Let me have a go at it. And here we are 2 years later, and things are rolling right along.
And you're still going.
Yep. Happy to say it.
For a few years, I ran a photo podcast on a pretty regular basis every 2 weeks. And it was honestly sometimes a struggle to figure out what topic I'm going to cover, when I'm going to find time, who I'm going to have on the show, if I have anybody at all, or if it's just me. And you are really consistent about putting something out almost every week unless life gets in the way. And I
try my best.
That's unbelievable. And the quality of your show is exceptional. And I like, for me, we're not looking at any other questions right now, but for me, I think one of the most interesting things is when you just get out there and you're just talking to us like you would be if we were all sitting around a campfire.
Those are pretty cool. My favorite episodes to make too. I hear that from a lot of people, and I think a lot of what has given the Astrocast the legs that it has and what has made it easy for me. Well, I'm not going to say easy, but what has made it doable for me to put an episode out consistently is the fact that, on a week where I'm like, I don't know what to talk about. Hey, I got clear skies tonight. Let's just set up the telescope and go chat with everyone under the stars for an hour. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, and I think it works wonderfully because you always work in something about astrophotography in there. It's not always about that. Sometimes you're just chatting with us, and I think that's really cool.
Always try to work in at least one or two facts that you can use in your, day-to-day or night-to-night astrophotography sessions every week. So.
All right. So how did you get into astrophotography? I know you're a little bit like me and you have a photography background. So how did you end up deciding, let's take pictures of deep sky or the Milky Way, or what was it that drew you to it? How'd you get here?
Absolutely. That's a very good question. So I've always had a passing interest in astronomy ever since I was a little boy. I can remember, going out. I grew up in very out in the boonies in Mint Hill, North Carolina, in a town, way outside of Charlotte, North Carolina. And it was very dark skies out there. And one of my earliest memories was actually seeing the Hale-Bopp comet in 1994. And back then it was just staggering seeing that. And that was there for weeks, and we were able to see it every night. And then in 2001, I was lucky enough to just happen to see the Leonids meteor storm, which is
Oh,
something that doesn't happen very often. They only occur about once every 20 years, I come to find out. But basically, it was like watching a meteor shower, except there's one, there's one, there's one. At like every second or so, you would see another one. But how I got to where I am today is a lot like we're having a boom right now in
mhm,
astrophotography. And the reason that we're having it is because of the pandemic that occurred in 2020.
right.
So I was into terrestrial photography before the pandemic came around. I had actually bought my wife a camera, a DSLR, like a Canon Rebel, like a, with two kit lenses and the bag and everything that it comes with. And it was just gathering dust on a shelf, and it just didn't seem like she was going to get into it. And I had used it a little bit, and I just remember we were renting a house at the time, and I was stuck in the house for a week, and I was just like, you know what? It looks like it's a full moon outside. Let me go outside and see what I can do. And I grabbed the big telephoto lens. I had really no clue what I was doing as far as astronomy. I was like, let me I guess speed up the shutter speed and play with the ISO until, because exposing the moon is not easy if you've never done it before, because it's an
Right.
extremely bright object. But after taking a few photos of the moon, I got curious and I went online and started like looking up different picture techniques for it, etc. And I started seeing these deep sky photos, and they were
Oh,
just like blowing my mind. And once I realized that people were taking these photos from their backyard of nebula, like stuff that prior to the 20 teens you would have only seen coming from Hubble,
right.
like it just blew my mind. And I'm like, man, the fact that people can get that is just unreal. And I was hooked ever since. So, 2020 is pretty much when I jumped on the astrophotography
Okay.
train, and it bit me hard and has not let go.
I can tell you even started a podcast.
Yeah. Yes, indeed.
So, what kind of terrestrial photography do you still do any of that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. All the time.
Okay.
So I'm actually a big wildlife photographer.
Okay.
If you're a longtime listener of my show, I actually have one episode called the Birdcast, where I had a week where I knew that I didn't really have too much to talk about astrophotography wise, and it was during the spring migration, which is just
Mm,
a great time if you're kind of semi interested in birding to get out and watch birds. And I got into birding because of astrophotography, believe it or not, because
okay.
there were a lot of nights when it was cloudy or I just couldn't get out to my dark sky location, and I wanted to practice on my camera still. So I would pick up my camera and start walking around the neighborhood, and I would just happen to see a bird up on the power line and snap a photo. And then I get home, what is that bird? And I'd go look it up, and man, that'll bite you really quick too if you're not careful.
Yes, it will. Yes, it will.
So
I love wildlife photography. I think I'm much more of a landscape guy myself, but I love wildlife. I'm not the most patient person when it comes to waiting on the wildlife. I'm like, all right, I'm here.
I
Okay.
get that.
All right, hurry up. Come on, show up, bear. Come on, show up.
It's funny that you say that, because one of the things that wildlife photographers hear all the time, and I don't hear this because my work isn't good enough to hear it, but when you hear, what a lucky shot, that's all. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. But like
Yeah,
when someone says,
absolutely.
what a lucky shot, you just kind of, you never say it to them. You're just like, thanks, but internally you're like, yeah, it didn't have anything to do with me getting up at 5 o'clock in the
No,
morning and wading
exactly.
through the mud and laying down and waiting.
Yeah,
So
staying there for
that's luck.
14 hours waiting.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's awesome. So now we've talked a little bit about the Astrocast.
Yep.
I do want to give you a chance to talk about your Patreon, because I think that that's an excellent way to do things. Not only because it's not cheap doing what you do, and your time is worth something. And I know you're probably like me in that. I don't make a dime off of this YouTube stuff at all.
Yeah.
I'm not nearly popular enough for anything
Same.
like that. So, for you to be able to do the Patreon, it's so nice, I'm sure, to have something coming in to
It
help.
is, and it's
Um,
it's not a huge amount yet, and maybe one day it will be. I mean, the
yeah,
goal for me for sure is to one day be able to do the Astrocast full time
Yeah,
for a living and dedicate everything to it.
that's right.
And I'm working
One at a
towards it.
time.
Exactly. But in the interim, what we've been able to do is just, it's really like, I know probably everyone says it about their Patreon community, but like to me, we've put together a group of people, and you've seen it yourself already.
Hmm.
We're in our Discord room talking all day long, every day. And we've actually all gotten together. Different groups of people have gotten together and met up for dark sky trips. Heck, we have multiple members in Europe, and we actually have some of the American listeners going over to meet with them in Europe this summer to go on a dark
Wow.
sky trip in Switzerland. So like, where else
Wow.
would you find that? You know what I mean? And I love that I'm able to bring people together like that. That's so
So
special to me.
I have a confession to make. Right when I first started hearing about your Patreon, I was like, I'm not going to join a Patreon. He talks about how good his community is and how they talk and they've got their Discord. And I'm like, I just I don't know, because everybody says that, like you
I get
said.
it. I get it.
And,
I've heard it
I
too.
took a chance, and within, I don't know, 2 to 3 minutes after being on Discord, I'm like, these are my people.
They
This
are.
is
And
amazing.
there's a number of reasons for it. It's like-minded individuals, and
Mhm.
I find being I'm a 41-year-old man, living in the modern world. It's hard to make new friends. It really
It
is. And the
really
older
is.
you get, it only gets harder. When you find people that have similar interests to you, it's much easier to kind of
Mhm.
break through that gap. B, and this is a huge part of my group, is we don't allow politics in our Discord chat. We just
That's
don't allow it. So we say, check it out the door. Astronomy is sacred. Keep that out. And
Yeah, there's enough of
I
that.
love that.
There's enough of that in
They
the
let us
world.
they ruin enough of that for everyone outside, like not here.
That's
You know
right.
what I mean? So we bring everybody together. We talk about astronomy. We share that. We love that. And it's just great, man. And I appreciate you saying that, because
Yeah.
you do hear it a lot, but I really do feel like we have a special community.
No, and I completely agree. So for everybody listening, go check out the Astrocast for sure, and we'll give you another plug at the end of this.
Thanks.
But I want to give you two, because I want people to go listen to the show, and I want people to get to know you through the show and consider your Patreon, if nothing else, than just for the Discord,
Yeah.
because that group is wonderful. And like I said, I can attest that there's no politics talk, which, I had some concern with that, just
Oh yeah.
because that's the way the world seems to work sometimes.
That it
And
is.
the media likes to shove it all in your face and
Uh-huh.
talk about how different we are. But I get in there and I realize how similar we actually are, and we have a lot more in common than we don't.
We all do,
So,
man. I think
I don't need to know anybody's.
95% of us in America all want the exact same things.
That's right. That's right.
So I'm with you on that.
Um, So, if someone is starting out, because I'm encouraging anybody watching this that's just starting out,
Hmm.
what would you recommend? If they're already watching the show, they're probably photographers. So, what would be the first step that you would tell them? Hey, if you're interested in astrophotography, start here.
Okay.
Don't go out and do what I did, which was put this monster together here.
At least
You
you put the
know,
right monster together, though. Looking at that, it looks like you did your research.
Yeah,
Very
I
beautiful
did.
rig.
I over research everything. That's
That's
sort of my
good.
nature.
That's
Um,
that's very good, because so many people go out and they buy the complete opposite. And I was guilty of it too. I bought the wrong
yeah.
thing when I first got started. I didn't know what I was doing. I wasn't a member of a club. So a couple of things. Use what you already have. That would be the first thing that I would say.
Yep.
So if you have a tripod and you have a camera with a wide angle lens, then you already have something that is capable of taking incredibly beautiful Milky Way
Hmm.
photos. And they're very, very different from the deep space photographs that you would take with something like the rig that you have behind you. But they are every bit as challenging in their own right, and kind of honestly a completely different skill set than what you learn
Hmm.
from deep space objects. And I learned kind of backwards. I started with deep space stuff, and then just a little over a year ago, I started doing Milky Way stuff, and I was like, wow, it blew my mind how much different it was. But so I went on a dark sky trip 2 years ago, out to the coast, and we found a really dark area, and I brought 4 cameras with me, 3 of which were on tracking mounts, so you could take really long exposures.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know which ones were my favorite images that I ended up taking back?
Which ones?
The ones that were just my Canon R5 sitting on a tripod, taking 24 millimeter photos. They ended up being the best. So start with what you have. And then if you find that you're really interested, there's a lot of different paths you can go down, but start with what you have. And then maybe what I would recommend would be to like add a star tracker in. So then you can start doing 1 minute, 2 minute exposures. And a star tracker is basically just a small device that sits on top of your tripod and basically rotates at the exact same speed that the Earth does to counteract our movement. So that way you can do a long exposure on a star without it trailing in the image. And ultimately, that's what allows that beautiful nebulosity of the Milky Way and the various nebulas to come through in your photos.
Yeah.
Big answer.
That's an excellent answer. And I just got back from, I hosted 2 weeks in Joshua Tree National Park. I did a 2-week back-to-back workshop, and it was all centered on night photography, not astro deep sky, but doing night photography, having a foreground and then trying to find the Milky Way and doing all that stuff. And since I've been in astrophotography, like I was taking a picture, it was a wide angle shot. I had the North Star was in it, but it was really wide. And when I got back and I started looking, and while I was in the group, every day we would get the group together and we would go through Lightroom and Photoshop and we'd look at their images. But I started noticing, I'm like, that's Andromeda. I found Andromeda in my shot, and then the Pleiades was up. And then, so even with this wide angle, it was 14 millimeter. And here I am looking at Andromeda. It was just a little sliver, but it was crazy. Absolutely.
But you can see it. You can pick it right out. And
absolutely there.
On the Learning Astrophotography Facebook page, which is a really popular one for new astrophotographers, that is like the #1 photo that you see posted. Hey, what is this in my image? And it's pretty much always Andromeda. And I love it, because it's like, you got Andromeda, that's how you got the itch, you see a galaxy, and it's an incredible sight. The first couple times you get it and you realize what you're doing, you're like, wait a minute, that's 14 million light years away and I'm looking at it. Like, it's just unreal. That's
amazing. And then toward the end of the 2 workshops, I was standing there, and I've taken 2 weeks worth of night shots, so I'm kind of done. It's like, all right, I get the group because I'm hosting it, so it's me running around trying to take care of 12 people to set up, to do shots, to talk to them, to give them pointers and all that stuff, and I'm just done. I'm exhausted.
That's tough.
And I'm sitting there and I'm watching all the people, and they're doing their star trails, and I turned around and I looked and I was like, I think that's kind of northwest. And so I get my 100 to 400 and I put it on my tripod and I open it up to 100 and I take a shot and I'm like, there's that bloody comet.
Yes.
So there's the swan. I'm like, all these people are having fun with their star trails, and I'm over there with a 100 to 400. I didn't have a tracker. It was, high grain shot, but by golly, that was a comet.
I love that. So I remember, last year when 2023 A3 Suchin and Atlas came, it was the big comet last year. I got up because they're always so low on the horizon. It's just how they end up being in our night sky most of the time. I got up at a couple of times at like 2:00 in the morning and drove 2 hours south because I went down to this lake where there was a super low horizon and I knew I'd have a good 10 degrees. And I remember I was sitting there and I had a 100 to 400 lens out and I'm shooting with my R7 and I finally get it framed up and I'm like, yes. And I'm like taking some shots and just right behind me, I hear, what's going on? And I turn around and there's a police officer. So I told him what was going on and he jumped out and he wanted to have a look and it was super cool. We had a good talk and people always want to know what's going on when you got your telescope out.
And that wasn't one of the times that you were at a graveyard, right?
No. So that's good. That's a deep cut right there. You have listened to the show. You've done your homework. So graveyards is like a recurring joke on the Astrocast because they're usually in dark areas. You won't find a lot of well-lit graveyards, as it
Right.
turns out. They're usually on public land, so, as long as you're quiet and keep to yourself, I've found countless graveyards in dark sky locations that end up being great places to shoot because people don't bother you if you're out at 2 o'clock in the morning in a graveyard. It turns out they're just like, you know what? I don't want to mess with that guy.
Yeah,
He
that's
can,
right.
he can do that. And I've been to some graveyards out in the middle of nowhere in the mountains of West Virginia. So
Yeah. And
I
the
would know.
residents of the graveyard typically leave you alone.
Nah,
So
they're pretty good as long as I'm
pretty
respectful,
good.
and I always am. So
So I just recently I interviewed Quiv, the Lazy Geek.
that's
He's
so
he's
cool.
pretty popular, and he's a super nice guy, also. But one of the reasons that I started watching him is because he is in Tokyo, and the
Yes, he
shots that
is.
he's taken from Tokyo are ridiculous.
They are.
So where do you? I
You
don't want
wouldn't
your
think
address, but where do you live? And I know
so.
on the show you talk about your Bortle rating. It's pretty
Yes.
rough.
So, well, this is a very interesting topic, and I'm going to give you just a brief rundown of how this works, just in case anyone listening doesn't know what a Bortle scale is. So, a man named John Bortle, back in 2001, an astronomer, he wrote into Sky and Telescope magazine and suggested something he called the Bortle scale, and basically levels 1 through 9, 1 being the darkest of dark skies that you can find on planet Earth, and 9 being the middle of Times Square. So
Right.
as you go up the scale, the grayer the night sky becomes and the lesser stars that you see until ultimately you're in a Bortle 9, and really you can probably see just the planets and the very brightest stars. With what's so cool about him is, like you say, he's in Tokyo. So he is in the Times Square type area,
Right.
and yet he still does phenomenal work. And what's so cool about that, and why I have so much respect for people who do work in like Bortle 8 and 9 conditions consistently and put out great work, is it just shows you that photons are photons. So we're
Right.
capturing light, when our camera sensor is open, and we are slowly but surely defeating the noise by introducing more signal into our photos. And, you take a 2-second exposure of the night sky, it's going to be super noisy, right?
Mhm.
But if you continue to take longer exposures and stack them on top of each other over and over and over again, that signal is going to get cleaned up. And then you combine like special filters that we have, like
Mhm.
narrowband filters that block out different wavelengths of light, and you can really get incredible results. So this
Right.
isn't something that, only people out in the middle of Utah, in the darkest of dark areas can do. You can do this, from anywhere really. I mean, if he can do it from the middle of Tokyo
Yeah.
and have as successful of a channel as he does on YouTube, then I'm convinced anyone can.
Yeah, that's actually it's completely why I brought it up, because there's a lot of people that say, "Well, I live in a city," and I'm saying that doesn't matter.
It doesn't.
Yeah, you're going to have challenges that people that live out west in the darkest of skies that they don't have, but it's not impossible, and it's not so
It's
complicated that you can't figure it out.
it's not even difficult anymore.
Right.
Once you figure out how to do it, it's just a matter of, do you want to put the time into the images? Recently, I decided to do my longest integration project ever, which was 45 hours on the Pleiades from
Oh,
my place.
yeah.
And I had, a week of clear night skies, and I set my telescope up religiously every night, and I was really happy with how it came out. Now, don't get me wrong. That's not to say that you won't absolutely love going out to dark skies, but that makes those trips so much more special when you go out to those really dark locations and you look up and like you can't even recognize the constellations that you're
That's
used to
right.
seeing from your yard because there's so many stars. I mean, if you just came from Joshua Tree, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
It's
Oh,
unreal.
I have some bad news about Joshua Tree and the light, though.
Oh no.
Palm Springs is right at the western side of Joshua Tree, and it is so bright now. It's a Bortle 3 instead of what
Oh
it used to be, and so we struggled with light pollution because that's where the
yeah.
Milky Way is. or in the the southwestern.
Southwest. Yep,
Yeah, and
absolutely.
where it was located, we struggled to get really good shots of Milky Way because of Palm Springs. So it's unfortunate. I can say that the Great Basin National Park in northeast Nevada, if you've never been there,
I have not.
is it's a Bortle 1, and
Oof.
it is unstinking believable.
I
Unbelievable.
I cannot wait. So next on my list of dark sky trips is to go out west. I think I've seen kind of the best dark skies that you can on the eastern
Yeah,
seaboard, but I
yeah.
know they don't even compare to what you get out west under those truly dark conditions, especially some of the higher elevation ones. So dying to see that.
And like you said, I struggled to find the North Star,
Yeah.
because I couldn't find the constellations. I couldn't
Yep.
find North. I'm like, what is going on? Because I've always been able to find, oh, there's the North Star.
Yeah.
There's,
Oh yeah.
there's the Big Dipper. It points to the North Star. That's easy.
Hmm.
If you can find the Big Dipper, it's easy.
I know
But
exactly what
there's
you
so
mean.
many. I mean, the first day that we were there, it was getting close to sunset. Now the sun is out,
Hmm.
and I saw Jupiter
Yep.
at the same time the sun was out. And I
Yep.
was like, what is that?
That's
And
crazy,
it's
right?
just how crystal clear and those skies are.
Oh,
And
I
then of
love
course, as
that.
soon as it got dark, the Milky Way lit up like a candle.
Ah,
It lit the entire landscape. Is beautiful. Absolutely
that
beautiful. So
that's incredible. I remember so brief, just a similar story of being completely discombobulated by the darkness. On May 10th of 2024, that date is just forever etched in my mind now. We had pretty much the biggest aurora borealis storm we've ever had in our lifetimes, and I heard about it earlier that day. And you hear about, auroras coming a lot and like, oh, these states might be able to see them tonight, but supposedly this was going to be like a really big
this
deal.
was a
And
big one.
I grabbed a buddy and I told my wife, like, look, I have to take advantage of this. It might not happen again. So I found this place in a graveyard up in Virginia in the Blue Ridge Mountains. And I headed up there, and it was about a 3 hour drive. And I get out of the car and I was just lost from all the stars. It took me a good 5 minutes to find the North Star. And then I took out my camera just to like test out, and I said, is that like a brake light or something? Like, why am I getting this red feedback in my lamp? I couldn't figure it. And then like wait a minute, that's north. And I turned over, snapped another, and it was aurora that I was
Wow.
seeing. It was incredible.
Yeah, we had people here in Florida that were getting it. I didn't get out because immediately I heard, oh, it's the aurora. It might touch Florida, and I was like, it's not going to do anything here.
Yeah.
And
I
then I
mean, that's
started
what you'd
seeing the
think.
pictures. I'm like, yeah, I should have probably tried.
I understand. I mean, what would you ever think
I know,
aurora would be visible in Florida,
in
right?
Florida, right? It's
Th-
ridiculous.
There were reports that it was visible in Puerto Rico that day. I mean, that's crazy. But yeah, it happened. Solar maximum every 20 years, and we're on the tail end of it now. We're approaching the end of solar maximum, but that's why this is happening, and it's been more consistent as of late.
Have you ever done any solar imaging?
So that's one thing that I have not done yet. So solar imaging is
Yeah.
something that I have seen done many times. So I'm a member of the Charlotte Amateur Astronomers Club,
Mhm.
and I have been a member there for a long time. Which, let me just say, if you're somewhat interested in astrophotography, looking to see if you have a local astronomy club, because that was one of the best decisions I ever made. Because for our club, it's $60 a year,
Yeah,
and you get access to like world class equipment down there. But anyway,
amazing.
we have a really high grade solar telescope down there, a helioscope rather. And the first time I was able to like see flares coming off the sun and
Yeah,
everything, it just kind of blew my
so
mind. But
cool.
now that I've got a Celestron C8 and a solar filter to go over it, I'm hoping to change that soon. So we'll see.
Yeah, I've only done some minor stuff with that. I've got a Evolution C8 as well,
Yep.
and I was able to get it pointed at the sun with the solar filter. Which public disclaimer: if you point anything at the sun, make sure you have a filter on it that can take it. So I
Please
did
do.
that, and I was
Protect your
pretty
eyes.
amazed. There were a few sunspots I didn't get to see any flares, and trying to track it, trying to figure it all out. And I was like, I got a few pictures I'm happy with. So I want to do more of that. I just got to get some filters. I think this will do it okay. So I want to get some
You
filters
can
for it and give it a go.
it's a whole nother craft that you can really go nuts on. I'm sure if you've looked at some of those scopes, they get up there, especially when you get like the pressure chamber ones that you can adjust the pressure of them to see different wavelengths and everything. And
Yeah,
it's nuts.
that's
So
crazy. More
definitely.
money. Somebody's
Yeah.
going to take more money. So
That's so friend of the show and our only longtime sponsor, Dark Dragons Astronomy, Rick, he told me the first time I met him, he said astrophotography, it combines all of the expense of photography with all of the expense of astronomy. Astrophotography. He
yeah,
was so
when
right.
you're done wasting money on
Yeah.
photography, now you can waste it on telescopes too. And it's great.
Yes. Yes. Definitely.
That's awesome. All right, let's see what have we got here. What's the next question I'm going to ask? Oh, this is a good one. Um, so photography skills. When I first started into this, here I am. I'm like, I've been a photographer since 2001. Serious
Hmm.
into it. Uh, I've always said that I learned something new every day in photography, and it's still true. Terrestrial, wildlife, doesn't matter. If I go out, I'm like, oh, that's something I didn't know today. So that's how I look at it. But I've been doing it for a long time. I do teach workshops. I've
Hmm.
done the podcast. I've done YouTube. I've done all that stuff. I love it. It feeds my soul. It's what I enjoy doing the most. And I said, well, you know what? That'll translate perfectly fine into telescopes. And it
Hmm.
does not. So there are certain aspects that do, but I
Yes.
think all of the astrophotographers said, we're not going to use these terms that the
Yeah.
photographers know. We're going to make up our own.
There is a whole different world of terms out there. It's true. And not
Yeah.
everything translates over, but some of it does.
Some of it does. So for you, what translates for you?
So there's two schools of thought to this, in my opinion, because I thought long and hard about this one. And I think the easy answer here is like, f-stops and exposure time and
Mhm.
ISO. Obviously, low ISO means lower noise, right?
Yes.
And you want a longer exposure to gather more light. Like that's an obvious thing. But to me, like once I figured out like what I was actually doing as far as like setting up my equipment and getting polar aligned and like just the basics,
Mhm.
one of the really cool things that I was able to transfer over was just like creative framing, for example.
That's right.
And this is something that like to me can take a incredibly boring photo and blow it up to incredible. And it could be as simple
Mhm.
as like rotating and cropping in 30%. Like perfect example I will give you when you see a photo that has, and I might be getting a little bit deep here, but like all of the Veil Nebula, the Eastern and Western Veil
Yes.
Nebula and the whole
Yes.
complex there, everybody does it the same. It's always like, there's the whole thing. It's all in the square and we get
Yeah.
it 135 millimeter lens. And it's just, to me, that's just boring. And I'm like,
Right.
zoom in a little bit. Like, let's twist it and like, let's
Yeah,
get
you
a
got the
better look at
witch's
this.
broom
And
and yeah.
exactly. And there's different elements that you can pull out. And then if you're like me and you eventually start going wider and wider with your shots, like I love
Mhm.
ultra wide field astrophotography. Like, give me an 85 millimeter lens and let me
Wow.
just see what I can shoot all night long. And I'm all about it. Um, that is when you can start incorporating foregrounds like you were talking about earlier. And then
Yeah.
that's when you can really truly start to make a photo shine. And then processing is a big one.
That's
So
right.
you probably are starting to discover that Photoshop is not
No.
necessarily the tool for astrophotography, right?
Right. No, what I did is I did the research up front and everybody was using PixInsight. And I said, okay, we're going to go all in on PixInsight and we're going to figure this out.
Yep.
And I opened it up and went, wow,
Yeah.
I'm going to have to watch some videos.
Yes, it's very bewildering, man. I did the same thing. So I got I think they were offering like a 2-week trial or something at the
Mhm.
time, and I opened it up and I think I flipped through the menus a couple times and I was like, okay, close, and was just completely bewildered. I went off in a different direction and used a different tool that was much more automated, and it
Mm.
worked for a while. But then I pretty quickly was like, okay, what else? And that's when I went back to PixInsight
Yeah.
And that's when I was like, okay, let me watch a few videos. And that's when I started discovering a lot of the other YouTube personalities out there, like Nico and, Quiv and everybody else,
Mhm.
and watching reviews and Trevor from Astro Backyard and how they do it. And luckily for us, we're coming in at a time when there is just a huge wealth of information out there for learning Pix Insight. So it's not like it used to be. It's still confusing software and it's
It
not
is.
intuitive at all. But there are some things in it where, like a curves tool, a histogram, where you're like, oh, okay,
Right.
I understand a histogram. You know what I
I
mean?
understand how this
Um,
works.
yeah, exactly. So you'll see a couple things here and there, but there's a lot of really great tutorials out there, and that's
Sure.
awesome.
Yeah, I think whoever designed it certainly knew what they were doing, but they had no idea how to make it intuitive at all.
Yeah,
Like,
it's like
it's painful when you're trying to learn. And what I did is I watched those videos and then I did it and then I wrote it down.
yes.
And the reason why is because I had 2.5 months here with cloudy skies where I couldn't do
Mhm.
anything. And then I finally I got 15 minutes on an object. You can imagine how great that turned out. But I got
Yep.
15 minutes. And I said, well, I'm going to go through PixInsight anyway, just for the
Yep.
practice. And I opened it up and I was like, huh, I'm glad I wrote this down.
Yeah.
So
Oh, yeah.
I had
It'll
somewhere to
stick with you a
start.
lot more if you write it. Everybody's got their own ways of
Yeah.
learning. Like for me, what I tried to do, and I've taught a few people in the Patreon, that we've had people come in that are not tech people at all, but they want, like, we
Right.
have this member, Kelly. She's awesome. She's a mom who lives out in the country. She's got
Amazing.
2 kids that are about to go into college, and she just said one day, "I wanna learn astrophotography," and
That's
I
amazing.
applaud her for it because she's not the prototypical astronomer.
Right.
But to her credit, she's all in and she's learning. So I got on with her one night and I said, "I wanna teach you PixInsight the way I wish I would have learned it," and
Oh,
I
yeah.
basically taught her the simplest workflow I could to get her a pretty picture,
That's
and then
great.
everything else she can add in as she goes, auto
Right.
stretch the photo. That's okay when you're getting started. Don't
Yeah.
separate the stars, just all the basics. Just keep it as basic as possible. And then you can start adding little bits and pieces here and there and really watching your images shine. Like you said, yeah, there's going to be so many nights when it's cloudy or rainy and you're not going to be able to be out with your telescope. And that's the
Mhm.
perfect time to sit down at your computer and go through some data.
And what's great about now, I don't know her at all. I've only seen her in the Discord like once, and that was today.
Yep.
But she has actually got an advantage that a lot of folks don't, in that she doesn't have any bad habits. She doesn't have
Hmm.
any, previous experience with anything else that's going to hinder her or cause her to go in a direction that
Well
is
said.
not productive. So she is in a great spot, and I bet she does better with the framing than a lot of folks that are on the other side of it, the technical side, because with astrophotography, you have a lot of astronomers, and
Uh
astronomers are very much scientific
huh.
based.
Hmm.
That's why you get the whole Veil Nebula, and they say, okay, I've got the Veil
Yep.
Nebula. Let me move on to something else.
Exactly.
And I like the idea of our own personal vision coming
I
into
totally
it so
agree.
that we have an artistic take on it. So
Yes.
it's okay if you want to zoom in and change it and turn it around and make it upside down, or go into patterns, or
Yes.
find anything in it that it doesn't even have to make sense. If you like it and you
If you
love it
like it,
and
it's
you can
right.
process it, then you're in great shape. I
I
mean,
couldn't agree more.
scientifically, you know,
Look,
but that's not where that's not what
I'll
I'm
say
doing.
this. So when I interviewed Nico from Nebula Photos on YouTube, he said to me something that has always stuck with me. He said, "The moment that you stretch that image,
Mhm.
it's immediately lost all scientific
Right.
merit. Like it's gone. It's out the window. It's art at that point, and that's
Yeah,
okay. We are
it's okay.
combining science and art together to make something that is new and beautiful. And if
That's right.
you're happy with it, that's all that matters, because that's what art is, man. Like that.
Yep.
That's perfectly fine. So
Yeah, if you're working for NASA and you're working with the James Webb and you're doing all that, that's a totally different story.
good for
But
you.
that's not what I'm doing. I'm doing it
Yep.
because I love photography. I love images. I love the night sky. I love astronomy. I love it all, and I want to
Same.
make these my own.
Absolutely.
Um,
And
and
that's
that's
not
okay.
easy to do because
It's not.
so many images look exactly the same, and
Yeah.
making it your own is important, whether that be processing something a little bit differently, framing it up a little bit differently, zooming in a little bit differently, whatever it is to put your own spin on it, I'm A-okay with it. I encourage it.
Yeah. In terrestrial photography, it actually happens with the iconic views. Like you go to the Grand Tetons and there's a Snake River view where Ansel Adams took his famous Snake River shot.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and you can go up there and you can frame it up and you take the exact same shot that he did, which I encourage you to do. If you go to the Grand Tetons, go get that shot because pixels are free.
Yeah.
So get up there, take your picture, and then stay there and find things that aren't Ansel Adams shot. So get your big Veil Nebula shot if you don't have one, because you can do that.
Oh yeah, it's
and
awesome to
then
get.
work with it. You know,
Exactly.
work with it. All it's going to take is your time.
Exactly. And time is valuable, but that's what we're using, and it's ours to spend however we please. So
okay, so we're getting pretty close to the end here, and I want to make sure that everybody listening, if you're interested in astrophotography, you don't have to have the best equipment. You can probably use what you have. You can do it from a Bortle 7, 8, or 9 even.
absolutely.
You don't have to have a dark sky. I encourage you to find an astrophotography club, or not a photography club, but an astronomy club. Like here in the Palm Beaches, we have one. It's Palm Beach. Anyway, I'll put that in the show notes because I can't remember. They're all really long names.
Oh yeah.
But it's a great group. It costs $35 for the whole family a year.
So
we have
inexpensive.
a reasonably dark sky. It's a Bortle 4.
That's great.
But it's a spot that we can all meet. So if you're interested, go join an astronomy club. I guarantee you there'll be astrophotographers there, and they will be happy to talk about their gear and their stuff and how to do it.
And you can get hands-on with it. They'll tell you what to get, what not to get, because it's so easy if you don't know what you're looking for to buy the wrong thing and it ends up in a closet gathering dust, and you don't want to do that.
No, we don't want that at all. And most of us, like I'm a pretty introverted individual. I can be extroverted when I need to. My day job requires it. So I'm in front of people all the time. I do all of that stuff, but I'm happy being alone.
Yes.
But I'm telling you, as an astrophotographer, photographer, person interested in astronomy, we love talking about everything. So join the club. You'll have introverted people talking to you all the time.
Yes, you really will, man. Well said. And like-minded individuals, just like earlier, right? It's so cool getting together with my club. I love it. Some of the best conversations I've ever had have been down at that club.
That's right. So what is next for the Astrocast? What are you going to do?
So recently I did kind of my biggest project yet. We released an episode called Swan Song, which was about a relatively unknown astronomer named Henrietta Leavitt, and actually Henrietta Swan Leavitt, hence the name Swan Song. And it was amazing. It's something that I worked on for months to produce, and it was very unlike any episode that I've done before. And I realized very quickly I can't put one of these out every week, but I do have plans to do more deep dive episodes into maybe the history's forgotten astronomers that accomplished very important things. And then outside of that, we're also continuing to grow our community. Seems like every week we get one or two more people joining up. It's just been exploding with growth over the last few months. It's really picked up, and I'm hoping next summer to have our first kind of big North American get together. So we had our first small get together called First Light in Wisconsin back in August. A friend of the show, Mark, hosted it, and it was incredible. We got together with a bunch of listeners up there. We spent 4 nights together under Bortle 3 skies, and it was incredible. And I have to do that again. I need to see those guys again. We had so much fun, and I just can't wait to do that again. So we're going to keep putting out episodes. We're going to keep growing the community, and we're going to keep talking about astronomy and astrophotography.
All right. That sounds amazing. Absolutely awesome. And that First Light, was it awkward when you first started? When you got everybody together for the first time and you're like, hey, how you doing?
Everybody thought it was going to be super awkward. So the group consensus seemed to be that we would end up hanging out at night and imaging under the stars, but then during the day, everybody would kind of just go off and do their own thing. What
Okay.
ended up happening is we had some of the deepest, most frankly emotionally available conversations I've ever had in my entire life up there. Like, we got deep, we really did. So we
That's
connected
awesome.
on a deeper level than I would have ever expected to while we were up there, and we all walked away with new lifelong friendships. I was shocked because I honestly was kind of like, man, I hope there's no psychopaths up here. Because like, you talk with people online, but like, you don't
Yeah.
really know
You
people,
never
right?
know. Yeah.
Man, everybody was so cool and so welcoming and so warm and helpful, and you could not have asked for a better group of people. So astronomers and astrophotographers, man, they're good people. That's all I can say about that.
That's
But
right.
yeah, can't wait
So
to do
I,
it again.
I'm telling everybody watching, go listen to his podcast, uh, and really consider joining that Patreon. It's $5 a month, and you get access to all of the people he's talking about. I mean, we're all
Yeah.
in there every day talking about astrophotography. Some people are putting up pictures of their dogs. We're
Yep.
just having a good time. So I
Absolutely.
encourage you to go listen to the Astrocast, but also take it a step further. Join that Patreon. Come in, get to know everybody, and there could be somebody in your area that you don't even know. That's like, I know that there's a guy named Chris that lives in Florida, and he's not too far away. So he and I have already been talking. We're probably going to find a way to do a dark sky trip, because we have a couple of Bortle 2 places here in Florida, and we're going to go try to find those out and see what we can do. So everybody
That's a
watching,
great plan.
go listen to the Astrocast and join that Patreon. You won't regret it. I waited far too long before I joined, and then I joined. I'm like, oh, I should have done this back in March when I first
Oh,
found it.
thank you,
But
Jason. That means a lot, man. I really appreciate that so much. It's funny that you mentioned Chris because he's actually a good friend as well. I mean, I kind of everybody is in there, but I met Chris when I actually went to Florida on a trip over the summer, and his late father, who worked for NASA, actually had bought a C8 and never got to use it. And Chris has some, without getting into details, he's got some issues that prevent him from using such a large telescope.
mhm.
And he actually gifted it to the show. And
Wow.
it was, he gave me a letter and asked, he's like, if you want, you can read this on the show. Of course I did. I read the whole thing and teared up. I mean, it was an incredible gesture. And I got the scope sitting right in the other room right now, and I'm still kind of getting it all figured out and setting it up and everything. But stand up guy, really, you couldn't ask for a better dude. So shout out to you, Chris.
Absolutely awesome. And without the show, you would have never met Chris and never
Exactly.
gotten a wonderful gift like that. It's amazing.
Exactly.
And you were down at Cape Canaveral, right, when that happened?
Yeah, yeah. Actually, man, I got to see my very first two rocket launches in person. So that whenever I was going down on a family trip, and at the time I looked it up and there weren't any launches scheduled, and I was like, darn, what are you gonna do? And I just kind of forgot about it. And then we're going down, and literally like the day before we leave, uh, one of the people down there messages me and says, "Hey, do you know that there's going to be a launch Saturday night?" And that's like the day we're arriving. So I was like, no, are you kidding me? And it was at like 3 o'clock in the morning. So I ended up just staying up, and long story short, I nailed both of the photos. I mean,
Oh,
they
that's
came
awesome.
out beautifully. I love those photos. It was so cool to see and witness and hear that blast come by you when the sound wave hits. And
Yeah.
that was a cool experience, man. Very cool
Well,
experience.
I have, you won't believe this, but I live like an hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes from Cape Canaveral, and I've never seen a launch.
Oh, I,
So
I can't believe it. I can't believe it with how life is, man. But you
yeah, I've
should.
seen them in the sky. You'll
Yeah.
be driving like early morning, like, what on earth is that?
Uh-huh.
And you think for a while, and it takes a minute to register. Oh, it's a launch. That's why.
Yeah. It's hit
But
me
I
many a
haven't
times
been.
too.
I haven't. My kid's going to be going to Florida Institute of Technology (FIT), which is
Awesome.
up just right at Cape Canaveral, not too far from there. And he's going to be studying aerospace engineering and
Wow.
astrophysics. He's going to double major. So I'll be up there probably quite a bit more. So I'm hoping to get out and try to get a launch.
I hope you do, because it's something else. I will tell you though, bring mosquito spray. Don't make that mistake. Oh my goodness. I had to go to the gas station. They had one bottle left. Thank goodness. I couldn't stand out there for more than 10 seconds. I got eaten alive.
I've been a guide in the Everglades. So,
okay, so
I'm like, I've got if it's something that will repel mosquitoes, I've got 2 of them.
Yeah,
so I hate those things. Such a passion. I have to digress a little bit. So when I first moved down, I'm from East Tennessee originally, around the Great Smoky Mountain area.
Okay. Yep.
And so that if you hear a Southern accent in my voice, that's where that's from. But we moved down to South Florida about 20 years ago, and I said, well, I'm a photographer. We've got the Everglades National Park here. It's going to be awesome. It'll be just like the Smokies, right? And I go out in the middle of August. I say I'm going to do a sunrise, and I go out in t-shirts and shorts.
Ooh.
And I get out of my car and I set everything up, and the sun's starting to come up, and I'm like, what is going on? And I look down, and there's probably 37 different kinds of mosquitoes on my arm.
Oh my gosh.
And I screamed like a little girl, ran into the car, and I didn't go back for 2 years.
They're next level down there, man.
I finally did it.
You guys, you got some. Ooh, I thought we had them bad on our coast. We ain't got nothing on Florida. You guys got the next level mosquitoes and no-see-ums down there. Oof.
And it's only the deep woods, the most deep that you can get. That's the only thing that keeps them away. Unfortunately, I've tried everything, and nothing else seems to work. Yeah. Just as a reference, DEET is really bad for telescopes.
Don't get it on your lens. It'll kill your coatings, the plastic, on your
the coating. It'll take care of all of it.
Oh, buddy, it's bad.
Okay. Well, I think I've kept you quite long enough. And so where can they find about you?
So if you want to check out the Astrocast, we're on all the major podcast platforms. So Spotify, Apple Podcast, Pocket Cast. We're actually on YouTube too. We don't got too many listeners on YouTube, but if you want, you can watch us there. And you can go to theastrocast.com. It's currently just redirecting to my photography website, which is qcru.com. But I'm in the process of rebuilding the domain right now to be more astrophotography centric. So check me out. You can always shoot me an email if you want, ru@theastrocast.com. And I'd love to hear from you.
That's excellent. And I can attest to the fact that he does respond.
I try to. Anybody who's willing to take the time to send me a message, man, I feel like I owe it to him to write him back. Even if it's a little late, I will write back.
Excellent. Well, Ru, I want to thank you for coming on the show, and we finally got it done.
Yes.
I've been trying for a few months, but it's done.
I appreciate you having me.
And I'm hoping maybe over the next year we can have you on again. We'll see how you look a year from now and see how the Astrocast is going. And
yeah, man, we can trade. Maybe you can come online one of these days. We'll have to go back and forth.
You're going to hold my feet to the fire. I'll do it. So.
All right. Well, thank you so much for having me, Jason. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. All right. Well, I'm going to end this like I end all of them. And that is sort of appropriate. I guess I'll have to change it a little bit, but you get off the couch, grab your camera, escape, explore, and create. But now I guess we're going to have to add something about a telescope in there. So
do it at night too.
Yes. All right. See you later.
Thanks, Jason.